There are mysteries that time tries to bury. Narratives so profound they survive even after empires have crumbled and oceans have changed their shape. Among all of them, there is one that insists on returning, as if something in the depths were calling to us: Atlantis. For centuries, archaeologists, historians, and the curious have been taught to treat its existence as a myth, an allegory, a philosophical fable. But there is an inconvenient detail, a point that almost no one mentions. The story of Atlantis is so specific, so structured, and so aligned with known archaeological patterns that it is hard to understand why it has always been so forcefully dismissed. And today, we are going to explore what many avoid discussing: the forbidden truth that archaeology does not reveal. Atlantis survives not just because it is fascinating, it survives because it seems to carry something that official textbooks cannot fully explain. In every fragment, in every ancient narrative, we find echoes of a past that insists on remaining hidden. This video is a journey to the boundary between history and lost memory. It is not a search for fantasy. It is an investigation. And here, the question is no longer did Atlantis exist? The question is, what exactly are we failing to see? Before diving into the mystery, we need to understand the starting point established by official history. The only direct source about Atlantis comes from Plato, who described it in two dialogues written around 360 BC, Timaeus and Critias. In the Platonic narrative, Atlantis was a great maritime power located beyond the Pillars of Hercules, a region now known as the Strait of Gibraltar, an advanced, organized, and admired civilization, which was supposedly destroyed in a single day and night of misfortune by natural catastrophes. Scholars claim that Plato created this account as a political metaphor, a way to criticize human hubris. For academia, Atlantis was merely a literary device, not a historical record. The position is clear. No concrete evidence has been found, and, as far as we know, nothing proves that this kingdom existed. But this is where the rupture occurs. The point where history, carefully organized, begins to show cracks. Because, over the last few decades, discoveries scattered around the world have raised uncomfortable questions. Artifacts out of context, submerged ruins that shouldn't be where they are, architectural patterns replicated on different continents without any convincing explanation. And, more importantly, there are ancient traditions from various cultures: Egyptian, Phoenician, Mesoamerican, and even Asian, that speak of an advanced civilization that disappeared after a great flood or cataclysm. Plato was not alone. He was just the only one who wrote it all down explicitly. Among these anomalies, perhaps the most intriguing is the link between the Egyptian priests and the story that was supposedly revealed to Solon, Plato's ancestor. According to the account, the Egyptians kept records of a civilization predating their own, a powerful society that succumbed due to its own arrogance. Some researchers argue that, if it existed, Atlantis could have been a cultural hub whose survivors migrated to regions such as Egypt, Mesopotamia, and even the Iberian Peninsula. This would explain why engineering techniques appeared so suddenly in antiquity, without a gradual development observable in archaeological layers. Another piece of this puzzle emerges from the submerged ruins found in various locations around the planet. In Japan, the Yonaguni structures exhibit straight cuts and platforms resembling monumental stairways. In the Caribbean, geometrically aligned formations suggest ancient settlements. In the Mediterranean, especially near the Greek islands, archaeologists have identified entire cities buried at the bottom of the sea, victims of earthquakes and coastal eruptions. Science attributes these findings to known civilizations, but some architectural features persist as enigmas. For many independent scholars, these fragments might compose what remains of a prior culture, a dispersed set of material memories that decades of study have still not managed to fully understand. And then, there is the element of time. Plato mentioned that Atlantis would have existed about 9,000 years before his time. This would place the supposed civilization at the end of the last ice age, when sea levels rose rapidly due to the melting of large glaciers. Geologists confirm that this period was marked by countless catastrophic events, gigantic tsunamis, and abrupt transformations that drastically changed the Earth's geography. It wouldn't be impossible for a coastal culture, advanced for its time, to have been swallowed by the waters during this interval. The question is, why is this possibility so often dismissed? Some researchers suggest that the resistance to the topic is not scientific, but historical. Accepting that complex civilizations may have existed before what is considered the beginning of human history would imply revising entire chronologies. It would imply admitting that part of ancient traditions preserved more facts than previously imagined. It would imply reopening archaeological debates closed for decades. The forbidden truth is not necessarily a hidden secret. It is a door that many avoid opening, because rewriting history requires courage and has consequences. The most accepted theories among alternative scholars point to different possibilities. One states that Atlantis was real, but not as a global or technologically impossible empire. It would have been a competent maritime society, advanced in navigation, agriculture, and urbanism, which influenced other cultures after its collapse caused by a catastrophic natural event. Another theory suggests that Atlantis was a metaphor, but based on much older memories, preserved by oral traditions for millennia. A myth, yes, but built upon fragments of real facts. There are also bolder ideas, though no less debated. Some argue that Atlantis could have been part of a network of coastal cultures that flourished when sea levels were lower. Others point to linguistic and symbolic similarities between distant peoples, suggesting there was exchange long before academic records allow. More controversial theories claim that certain artifacts considered isolated are part of the same mosaic, whose complete picture has yet to be assembled. The conclusion, however, requires no sensationalism. What emerges from this investigation is simpler and more profound. Atlantis remains on the threshold between myth and possibility because we still don't have all the pieces. Perhaps we never will. Perhaps the truth is divided between what archaeology accepts, what it discards, and what it does not yet know how to interpret. What remains, then, is the unsettling feeling that a part of our history has disappeared under tons of water and silence, leaving enough traces to provoke doubt, but not enough to generate certainty. And now, the decision is in the hands of the listener. Perhaps Atlantis was just an allegory. Perhaps it was a real civilization that the ocean took for itself. Or perhaps it is something between these two versions of fragmented memory, recorded in stone, myth, and speculation. It is up to you to decide which story makes the most sense, and which truth, among so many, seems less willing to remain hidden.